So we're now looking at making beeswax polish, and you can actually use various products. Everybody has their own recipe, but for this particular recipe I'm going to use linseed oil and white spirit and of course beeswax. And the method we use here is that we, in a jar, and it's easier to make it in a jar, we will put 1/3 of linseed oil and 1/3 of white spirit and 1/3 of the beeswax. Now the best way of doing it so that the beeswax doesn't set, because both of these are cold, is to put your two products into there, then put it into a bain-marie and warm it up so that at least it's a temperature that represents the temperature of the beeswax, so that when we add the beeswax you will then find it'll mix better. Now that should make an average polish that you could actually use in the home with an obviously lovely beeswax smell to it. You can also do it a different way. You can make it solely with extra virgin olive oil on its own. You can actually change your white spirit to turpentine, and you can also change the linseed oil, and you can use teak oil and, well, whatever other oils you want, according to what sort of woods you're trying to bring out the finish on. So we're just going to now do that. We're going to take the traditional linseed oil and we're going to fill it up to 1/3, which is about there, and then the same with the white spirit. The white spirit will help it dry when it's applied to the timber. So we're just going to top it up to there, and that's sufficient. And then now we're going to place that into this jug with boiling water, and I'll put the boiling water in first, and that will at least start to warm up that product. So that'll be enough boiling water, and we leave that in there for about 10 minutes to 1/4 of an hour to warm up. So we've had the linseed oil and the white spirit in the bowl, or the bain-marie, our little homemade bain-marie, and now that's got itself up to a fairly reasonable temperature, at least finger hot, that I can't put my finger in. So I'm now going to remove that from the water and just place it down there, and we're now ready to add our beeswax, which of course we've got to get out of this big cylinder. So I'm just going to take 1 ladle or 1/2 a ladle of beeswax and put it across into here. I'll just take a little bit more just to make sure we've got enough. Into there. And we just got to wait for it to soak through, and as soon as it's soaked through we can then add it to our linseed and our white spirit. As you can see, it's just going down through the muslin cloth now. We've got the wax now ready, and here's the time to pour it into our jar and then get ready to stir. So here we go. It's going into the jar. You can see it's starting to solidify. Just a bit more to go in, a bit more. And we're there, that's enough, that's plenty. And now all you've got to do is to stir it. It looks a bit messy to start with, but it'll actually mix in together, even though there are particles in there, and it'll gradually mix. I'll keep stirring. Now what you've got to do now is just leave it now to rest for a while. Even though it's slightly separate, we can come back and stir it as it cools down, and then it should be finished. So here's the finished product, the beeswax polish. It's all beautifully set and it's a lovely colour, and the smell is just amazing. So I've just been applying it now to some pieces of wood, and you might just recognise a certain piece of wood. You might recognise that because of it's broken. I wonder where that's come from. Anyways, you can see it's going into the timber, looking quite nice. I haven't polished it off yet, so I've got that bit to do, but I'll go and show you a demonstration. That's of course ash. So looking at this bowl, this is yew, and I've just applied it to half of the bowl, and you can see now the difference it's made. It's really bringing out the woodwork and the lines on there. And again, I've got to let that dry off, and then we can buff it up for a lovely finish. So here we are with the finished product. I've just put the first coat of polish on. You might just be able to catch the sheen on it, but as it's ash, it hasn't particularly got an amazing grain, but at least it's given itself a lovely coating, and with two or three more polishes it should really come up well. Now if we have a look at the bowl that we've just done, this is the bowl, and you can see with the bowl how beautifully it's come up. The grain has come through and it's really highlighted, and that's on a first polish, and with one or two more polishes just to build up that finish, it'll really draw the grain out. But it's a beautiful item. So there we are, that's homemade polish and the results you can get from it.